Welcome to Speak Augusta. I'm your host, Ben Hassan. This is the third edition of In My Opinion. We thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to take a look at the podcast. Also, we encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. It doesn't cost you anything. As we spoke last week, I think that we went off saying to you all we was making mention about a memorandum of agreement, and I let it be known that if I find the document, well, I said the cover letter, but it's actually the word would more be appropriate would be the approval letter for the memorandum of agreement, which I was saying because I could not find one. I did put in for the administrator's office, and she did send me a approval letter, but it was not appropriate for that particular memorandum of agreement. However, I did send an open request back to let them know that that was not sufficient in my mind in terms of what we should be looking for and expecting. However, I do have some more approval letters that I would like you to take a look at. I had a Commissioner Tony Lewis, who saw the podcast, and as a result of that, he decided to go to the administrator's office and ask for any approval letters around the Charter Review Committee. Now, when I say go to the administrator's office, this is no way indicting the administrator. It is just part of the process and how things get done in the government. So there's no way to research her character in any form or fashion. So let me just read a couple of things to you. This is from June 18th, 2024. This from when the interim was Ms. Dowse. She said, "Dear Ms. Bonham, at the regular meeting held Tuesday, June 18th, 2024, the Augusta, Georgia Commission took action on the following." It's about 4 different issues here, but here's the one that we're looking for. So they approved the tasking the Clerical Commission to engage the Carl Vinson Institute of Government at the University of Georgia to begin the process of leading and providing guidance to Augusta, Richmond County down the path toward the creation of a Charter Review Committee. That is, once again, June 18th, 2024. Another one. This is from Ms. Allen, Administrator Allen, January the 7th, to the Mayor. "Dear Mayor Johnson, at the regular meeting held on Tuesday, January the 7th, 2025, the Augusta, Georgia Commission acted on the following items. Approved proposal for service submitted by the University of Georgia Carl Vinson Institute of Government with assistance in conducting an Augusta, Richmond County Charter Review and the Augusta, Richmond County, Georgia Charter Review Committee on resolution draft." There's another item on this as well. That's January the 7th. That is, and what happened here, this is a proposal that Carl Vinson sent to Augusta, Richmond County. Here's another one from Administrator Allen, January 23rd. "Dear Mayor Johnson, at the regular meeting held on Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, the Augusta, Georgia Commission acted on the following items. They approved to amend the Charter Review Resolution to include adding proposed charter changes to the ballot referendum to be approved/voted on by the citizens of Augusta, Richmond County." January 23rd. Here's February the 4th. "Dear Ms. Bonner," from Ms. Allen, Administrator Allen. "Dear Ms. Bonner, at the regular meeting held on Tuesday, February the 4th, 2025, the Augusta, Georgia Commission acted on the following items. Approved setting a deadline for the governing body to finalize the charter review selection by February the 18th, 2025. So once again, all of these are approval letters, but there is no approval letter for the memorandum of agreement, which is actually the contract, which is my concern. And I think it should be, as you saw, all those different little movements, there were always an approval letter to know that this had been before the governing body. And that is what I'm questioning about this going for the governing body, because as of yet, they have not been able to provide an approval letter. However, here's something I would like to bring to your attention. This is a resolution establishing the Augusta, Richmond County, Georgia Charter Review Committee. Let me back up. The one that you saw the last one you saw on February the 4th, that it was saying to the commission, you all need to finalize, by February the 18th, finalize who you're going to put on that board. Now remember, for those who may be seeing this for the first time, the document that I'm concerned about that the mayor's signature is on, actually it's January the 30th, 2025. And as you can see, I've read nothing thus far to say that this document went before the governing body. Now, Richmond County resolution establishing the Augusta, Richmond County, Georgia Charter Review Committee. Whereas the Augusta-Richmond County Commission, listen, approved a motion tasking the clerical commission to engage the University of Georgia Carl Vinson Institute of Government to begin the process of leading and provide guidance to Augusta regarding the creation of a charter review committee. And whereas a memorandum of agreement was executed by Augusta, Georgia and the University of Georgia Research Foundation, Inc., under which Carl Vinson Institute of Government will provide service to Augusta in connection with the charter review process. And whereas Augusta approved the creation of a charter review committee and the terms under which such committee would operate. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Augusta-Richmond County Commission as follows. Now, the first part of that is telling you the Carl Vinson Institute is going to begin to engage with Augusta-Richmond County, and that was approved by the commission. I'm going to jump one. Then it comes back and tell you the charter review committee and the terms of which such committee would operate was approved by the commission. But in the middle, when they mentioned the memorandum of agreement, this date here is March the 11th. Now remember, they signed the agreement January the 30th. So we're talking March the 11th. And he said the memorandum of agreement was executed. Doesn't say what date it was executed on, nor does it here with the information here, because this goes on here and has in here the committee resolution, as it said, was approved. It also tells you who are the members on that committee. There's nothing here about the memorandum agreement at all other than mentioning that it was executed. Didn't say when, didn't say where, didn't say how. Once again, but they did not claim also that it was approved. And that is a concern. That is the contract itself. So all of the timelines that we are hearing from the Charter Review Committee about what they have to get something done, this was never approved by the commission. Never approved by the commission, because the commission moved their timeline because they didn't have time. They didn't get started in January. They moved their timelines all the way up to March, the end of March of 2026. So all of these things are artificial in of themselves between what Mayor Johnson and our interim attorney, Jim Plunkett, has done without the knowledge of my mind, in my opinion, without the governing body. And that should concern me. Now, here's another concern that I do have about the document, the committee resolution. It says here, the Charter Committee shall submit its final written recommendations of any suggested revisions, update, or changes to the charter upon completion, but not later than March 31st, as I just mentioned to you, 2026, to the Mayor and Augusta-Richmond County Commission, unless the deadline for such submittal is extended by the Augusta-Richmond County Commission. That's 15. Here's 16. A copy of the final report shall also be presented to each member of the Augusta Legislative Delegation, the governor, the lieutenant governor, Speaker of the House, and the chairperson of the Senate, State, and Local Government Operations Committee, and the House of Government Affairs Committee. A copy of the final report shall also be made available to the public. 17. All proposed findings, recommended changes, and updates will be submitted to the Augusta Legislative Delegation for approval in the Georgia General Assembly. Here's my problem with all of that. Here's my problem. The Augusta Charter Review Committee is a subcommittee established by the commission, which includes the mayor, by them, meaning that all of their findings, and I've spoken to the board and mentioned this to them as well, my opinion on this, is that all your findings and all your suggestions, because you are a recommending body, goes back to the commission. And at that point, the commission can accept everything you said, nothing that you said, and they can submit their whole own plan if they choose to. That is what a subcommittee does. It brings everything it does back to the body. Nobody on that subcommittee is an elected official. They don't have the authority to go around you. They are a body that's representing the commission. They are sworn to do that. They've been sworn in to uphold the laws of the city, the laws of the state, and the laws of the country. And the laws of Augusta-Richmond County says that you are a subcommittee, and all of your findings go back to the Augusta Commission. Now, the Augusta Commission can forward whatever they like to on to the legislative delegation. That's their job. That's not this committee's job. Now, once again, this is what Jim Plunkett, interim attorney Plunkett has written in here, and in my mind, and this is my opinion, I believe this is illegal because that's not how you change the charter. The charter be changed two ways that I know of. The charter can be changed by 8 votes. 8 votes, you state your intentions, you go through a legal process, you let the public know, you run it in the paper. Your intent is to change certain aspects of the charter. And you need a minimum of 8 votes to make that happen. A minimum of 8 votes. Let me read it to you better yet. And this is of the consolidation bill. The commission council shall have the authority upon the affirmative votes of 2/3 of those elected. That has always been 8 votes, even prior to the mayor having a vote, so still is 8 votes now. The commission council have the authority upon the affirmative votes of 2/3 of those elected to the commission council, excluding the chairperson mayor, to change the provisions of this act which conflicts with existing or future law or federal laws provided. However, no provision shall be made which distinguishes or changes the principle or representation of citizens by district on the commission council or any other entity. It takes 2/3 votes to do that, of elected body, not a subcommittee. Of elected body. And as I told you also, there's something they call home rule, where the commission can change certain aspects of the government themselves by going through a legal process as well and letting it be known. In this instance, from the conversation that's being had at the committee level, they won't be able to do even with home rule, because one of the things that they're talking about or considering or discussing is saying they want to give the mayor veto power. Well, the consolidation bill says that the commission can pretty much give anything to the mayor, but you cannot give him veto power. So that's out. So home rule is out. And so this is not, and this is nowhere to besmirch the character of anybody that's on that committee. I'm just saying they don't have the authority. They're not an elected body. Not only that, I'm hoping I can put my hands on it. I think, Commissioner, when me speaking, I've been to the body before, and I've said to them, I'm hoping I can find this right fast. I've said to them that encourage them to go back before the commission and ask each commissioner, did you all anticipate us bringing this document back to you all? And at that point, our work is done. At that point, they just pretty much ignored me, took it as information, and didn't say anything. But my point here is that is their role. And that's about the extent of their role is to doing that. I'm hoping I can find something just recently, a ruling that Attorney Plunkett made. This ruling was on the 20th of this month. The 20th of June. For my point to be made here. So whether or not a special call meeting are allowed, this is Attorney Plunkett. They're discussing about what does a special call meeting look like on the committee level. There's a lot of discussion going back, and I plan to also put those emails so you can read those emails, because I find it to be very interesting. But here's what he weighed in on them. He said, whether or not special meetings are allowed, I think it's appropriate to remind everyone that votes at the subcommittee level are recommendations, and the motions made at the meeting are to be added to the full committee's agenda for action. Same thing for them. They're just recommendations. So how do they end all up in Atlanta, end up in the governor's office and everything, and the commission stays here? Ladies and gentlemen, when these rules start changing like that, they only change when we are in the majority. And I think it's a disservice for this to happen. I think it's out of order. I think it's inappropriate because nobody elected anyone on that committee. And I think it's a disservice to the citizens of Augusta, Richmond County, and we need to say something. If you don't say anything, then you are giving it your consent, because nobody has given them consent to do all of this, even though this has been written. And I'll be honest with you, the commission seems to have approved this. I don't realize that the thing, because this thing was beginning to move so fast, whether they saw it at the last minute or did not see it. But I will tell you that I don't think that commission as a body understood that this document, whatever the findings are, would just be coming back to them and they were making the final decision. Because what it is saying here now is that this Charter Review Committee makes the final decisions. Totally inappropriate. Totally inappropriate, and I think we have to be mindful of that. So now, as I move on, I'm hoping I can get out of here. I'm trying to navigate, as you can see. What I want you to take a look at it right now is what I would call a meeting on June the 12th. And all I want you to look at is a motion that was made. And that motion was made by a member on the government subcommittee. She's on both the main committee, but she's a member also on the government subcommittee. And she made a motion. And what they were discussing prior to the motion being made is bringing Ms. Allen in at their next meeting, which would have been June the 25th. So Ms. Sheffy Robinson made a motion not to do that. She said, well, here's what we need to wait on. We need to wait on Carl Vinson Institute to bring us back the information that we've already tasked them to do, to take a look at that information and prepare ourselves to be more informed of questioning Ms. Allen around things that is pertains to her job. Now, personally for me, I don't think she should be coming because, they're looking at her for the job. So that's my opinion. But however, let me stay on task here. And that is and that's the motion that she made. And she said the reason for that is because it gives us more time to do our due diligence and be better informed and not be at the mercy of anybody just saying things. That motion, immediately when she made that motion, the chair, Mr. Steve, I'm gonna say Steve because I don't want to butcher his name, he immediately said, well, I like that. I think that's a great idea. With that being said, Lonnie Wimley, board member, Mr. Wimley, he seconded the motion. Now, there were other discussions in between that might have been as much as 5 minutes, so I did not include that, but I included just the motion itself. The motion passed unanimous, which was a total of 5 votes. Also, when you look at the video where the motion was made, if you look at your left-hand side and see the gentleman with look like a navy blue coat on with glasses, that gentleman is from Carl Vinson Institute. And the young lady who's next to him, she is the chair of the overall committee. She just happened to be sitting in on that particular meeting.
In the Augusta Richmond County Consolidated Government.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we interview Ms. Tamika Allen.
Second.
Oh, not finished.
No, I'm sorry.
After we have received the information requested by Carl Vinson, or for Carl Vinson. After we look at the different forms of government that are in place, because we want to make sure, I would love to hear her input, but at the same time, based on the information we receive, may drastically change this. And I think it would be better for us to give the committee time to review that information so that we can ask her better questions.
I think that's an outstanding idea.
Second. She's sitting in there. And so what I want to share with you is some of the challenges that committee is having overall. And I'm hoping I'm able to get to this. If I don't have to talk it through, but I want to really show it to you. So that's what you see on that video. Now, you looked at the video. A few days later, after that, and this is what this board has been experiencing the whole process. They will vote on something at the meeting, and through the course of before they get back to the next meeting, they continuously change things. Here's what I mean. Good morning, Ms. Bonner. This is from the chair, Mr. Steve. Good morning, Ms. Bonner. You recall the CRC, Charter Review Committee, voted to have subcommittee meetings every other Thursday, alternating between the form of government and finance. Since the last form of government subcommittee meeting agenda included a closing statement and public notice that we would meet Wednesday, June 25th, I thought it might be best for my committee to start the rotation. Oh, that's legit. Oh, that's fine. That's between the finance and that's between the government committee, which he's the chair of. because even when they voted to have those meetings or to alternate them from week to week, that's what I mean, meeting to meeting, they did not vote who's going to come first. So he is declaring, and he declared at that meeting that he would go first, even though the finance people were not in there. They would meet somewhere down the hall. He said, I thought it might be best for my committee to start the rotation. Martha William, that is the chair, is out of town and requested I send a reminder to you to arrange an interview with Ms. Tamika Allen. The subcommittee met the June the 12th and passed a unanimous request to arrange for interview exchange with Ms. Tamika Allen. The motion never said that. That's why I said, look at it. The motion never said that. Her motion was not that. Her motion was not to bring her up until after we look at the data, when Carl Vincent bring it back, we get a chance to study that data and we'd be more informed to entertain Ms. Allen. That's what it said. The subcommittee met June the 12th and passed a unanimous request to arrange for an interview exchange with Ms. Tamika Allen. Please request Ms. Allen to meet with the subcommittee at 1 p.m. Wednesday, June the 25th, and please arrange for a meeting. This happens all the time. Here's a response to that. This is from Ms. Sheffield Robinson. Steve, that was not what we voted on. We voted that we would schedule a meeting with her after we received the information requested about the governments back from Carl Vincent. If we receive that information in the next meeting, we need time to review that information. No meeting with Ms. Allen should be scheduled for June 25th. July 24th would be appropriate for a meeting. Here's a response. I'm not going to read them all. Mr. Steve comes back. Ms. Sheffield, Mr. Steve, fellow committee members, I would like to proceed with the plan to meet with Ms. Allen. Please let me hear from everyone else on the suggestion to delay that interview/meeting. Most of us have already presented the information from CVI with the exception of Sheffield and Clint. Please send me an email stating your desire to proceed or delay. As you can see, the committee voted, and this happens all the time. The other thing, now you heard him just mention Clint. Ms. Sheffield Robinson is a member of that committee. This, as we know, it's Coach Bryant. Clint Bryant is most know, or Coach Bryant, however you know him. He's not a member of the committee. Now, he's welcome to sit in there and to observe like any other member. But he is on this email, and this particular email from him, from Mr. Steve, is only going to members and to the chair. But Clint Bryant is on there. He's not a member. He's a member of the finance committee, but he's sending him the emails as well. And so this goes on, and she says, Steve, it's not a matter of proceeding or delaying. It's a matter of following what we voted on as a committee. To do anything other than that will require another vote. Let's make sure we are conscious of following Robert Rules of Order to govern ourselves. I'm not going to read them all. It's not that many, but I want you to see that this is a constant theme of them making rules and then doing something that's different. Now, there are other emails here as well. The other issue here is, as they voted on, as he was making claim, and rightfully so, I can respect that part of it. They said, okay, on June the 25th, even though he can't bring Ms. Allen, his committee will be the first one to meet from an alternate perspective, meaning that, well, what does that mean? That means the major committee is going to meet, and then one of the subcommittees is going to meet. So his committee is going to meet on June the 25th. And let's just say the next meeting is July 4th. And on July the 4th, when the body meets again, the finance committee, so they'll begin to alternate every time the major body meets. Guess what? They're finna change that again now. So he gets into a spat about that, and that's what you heard Attorney Plunkett talking about, special call meetings. Now they want to change and now put those meetings on the same day as the regular meetings, almost simultaneously at the same time as they did the very first one. But not only that, even if they change the times on it, that meaning that these persons or these people there all day. The sad part about that is they've been through this. The clerk has shared with them it inconveniences her. Even Attorney Plunkett said he didn't think it was best. Now I don't know how he's gonna be when this next vote come up. That he didn't think it was best to do it that way. You know, what else? The IT department, let it be known, it inconveniences them as well. Now, why are they doing this? Because what they're doing is trying to meet a deadline of this memorandum of agreement that has never been signed it's signed, that has never been before the governing body, and it is causing chaos among them. Instead of just being honest and playing it out all the way to March of next year, and once again, so that if when this thing come to the back to the body, that we can pretty much vote on it at best in November of next year and not in May. So we realize all this is being driven in a very unprofessional manner, in a very chaotic manner, in a manner where it is constantly building distrust because nobody wants to abide by the rules that they set for themselves, and they're changing them every meeting. And that is a disservice to us as citizens of Augusta, Richmond County, to have to say that this is going to be the governing body who's going to decide, going to go to Atlanta, going to send everything to the governor, send everything to all the legislative delegation, going to do all of that, and they can't agree on something from one meeting to the next. And this has been literally every meeting. But even if they did, it is not appropriate for them to be up to that is the Augusta Commission's job, to get that information back from them, to look at it, to evaluate it, to see what they like, see what they don't like. If they want to make some changes in the charter, if they want to go to another direction, the commission draft a bill of sort and give it to the legislative body, that this is the direction that Richmond County would like to go, and the legislators potentially passes it, and after that, then the citizens get a chance to vote on it. We need to stay woke on this. I know woke has become a very ugly term, but listen, either you woke or either you sleep. So you make the choice. And this is a disservice to Augusta, Richmond County, to how this is being done. It's a disservice that we have a document here that the mayor has signed on the 30th of January that's not been before the body. It is a disservice when we say our interim attorney, who's supposed to be the parliamentarian, one of his major jobs is to make sure that these type of incidents does not happen, and it looks like he's helped facilitating this to happen. This should really concern all of us, because what we're seeing is our city probably in one of the worst positions that it's been in quite some time in terms of governing. This committee, anybody can tell you, is struggling. But yet they won't stop because they're agenda-driven about what they've been told they need to do. And it doesn't care a hell or high water or who gets hurt in the process, and most likely that's going to be Augusta, Richmond County citizens. We ought to be concerned about that. And I know most of you, and I do understand, many of you all don't care to get involved in the politics. But I think in a very real way, this is an opportunity to do some great things in this community. And I think you ought to kind of look at it and see. The two mayors were two of the three mayors. So Mayor Harder Davis, I think, is coming next month. So let me give a brief commentary in terms of what I asked the mayors, Mayor Copenhagen, what I asked Mayor Young. After they talked, they was at the government committee meeting when I talked. Mayor Copenhagen talked at both on the body, and I wasn't there for that, but I was there at the government meeting. And he made mention about, one of the things, so it wasn't the only thing, so I want to give that impression. But one of the things that he highlighted, though, was at-large voting. And he said, well, North Augusta does at-large voting, and they're very successful at it and everything. So when I got a chance to ask him, question him, I asked him, I said, Mayor Copenhagen, I said, you made mention about North Augusta doing at-large voting. He said, yeah. I say, but if I'm not mistaken, they also vote party line, Republican Democrats. I said, are you open for that? Oh, no. I think, people are tired of the partisan politics. Well, okay. Well, let's look at at-large voting historically then. At-large voting historically was one of the greatest tools that were used to keep blacks and minorities out of office. When they say at-large means everybody in the county, let's say if Tony Lewis is District 6, and your next election, if they would have that way, then that means everybody in Augusta, Richmond County will vote on who represents District 6. And so historically, that was a weapon that it was used by the systems to keep blacks and minorities out of office. And they're considering, said, let's go back to it. they're saying under the guise, and Mr. Carroll, he's not the only one that said this, under the guise that we may get better candidates. Let me say this. Let me say this to that notion. I've been watching politics for almost 30 years now, up close and personal. And I'm not saying I have a monopoly on my opinion here. It's not so much, in my mind, about better candidates. I can evaluate every candidate I've seen, the black ones and the white ones, and others. And the difference is, point blank, the white ones stay in line. They're not going to cross the line. They're going to stay together, don't care what happens. Good, bad, or indifference. Sometimes we break rank, and sometimes you have to break rank. Let me just say that. I've broken rank before. I haven't lived outside but the rank. I haven't lived over there, but I've been outside because some things you have to do. And give me an example. And one of the examples is that when we first got there in 2014, I got there August of 2014. And that November, a SPLOST failed. We had to put a SPLOST together back in 2015 together. Now, why was he at the rush to do that? And now why they was 2 years out? They do it that way because, number one, Augusta-Richmond County had remodeled the municipal building to the tune of over $30 million. And it was going to be paid back through the SPLOST funds. And so in the meantime, the general fund, even before I got there, was funding that. And so you were trying to get the relief from your SPLOST so you could pay that money back. Well, when it fell in 14, now you're scrapping now. You won't be able to do it now because your SPLOST going to also expire if you don't get it right in 15. So we put it together in 15, and one of the things that we did that made some of us that looked like us uncomfortable, and that was we had to take out all the nonprofits, all of them. Because what we had to do, we had to make sure that SPLOST passed because I felt, and I'll be honest with you, I don't run from this. I don't just not to be searched because nonprofits do great jobs. And most of them consistently get money from the city in some form or fashion. So I would think that they would understand what I'm about to say as well, so as not to degrade the body of work that they do. But I felt my responsibility is to be responsible for the city first and primary, and it's $30 million. So as a result of that, I supported taking them all out, and that SPLOST passed overwhelmingly. We had to pay that money back, and then that next year round, whatever the city give the money to those entities, they got their money. They were in the next SPLOST that we passed in 20 and whatever, everybody back on track. So I know what it's like to do that. And so I'm just encouraging us to stay the course, to do what needs to be done. Pay attention to the politics now, more so than ever before, because some things are happening, some things they want to say that it's because of a 30-year-old document, but that's not the rule. That's not the reason. Another question. So I answered about Mayor Copenhagen. Here's what I asked Mayor Young. I said, Mayor Young, I'm not going to give an answer for this because I don't want to make the mistake of saying something that he didn't say. So I'm going to leave it like this. I asked him the question. I said, you made mention in your talk that when the city was predominantly white, there was no problem. But when the black became majority black, then distrust set in. Now I do plan to try to get the audio for you and say exactly what he said, because I don't want to attribute something. I know what he said. I have my own interpretation of what he said. But he didn't deny the question that I said to him. He didn't say, well, Ben, I didn't say that. He didn't say that. But here's again what he said. When the whites were the majority, but up until the blacks got in majority, that's when distrust set in. That's what we see now. He didn't say that now. That's me. That's what you see across the country. If you didn't have a President Obama, you wouldn't have a President Trump. And so what crime have we committed? What crime have we committed? And so I still recommend, you said, Ben, what do you recommend at the end of the day above everything else? What do you really recommend? I recommend, and I said this also at the end of that when I had my commentary the other day at that meeting. I said, I recommend that we consider establishing a race relations committee. I said, because the charge for us is that When you're talking about North Augusta, predominantly white, the governing body, all white. When you talk about Columbia County, predominantly white, all white governing body. I said the charge for us here in Richmond County that is given to us by God is how do we find a way to work together here in this deep South? That's our challenge. That's our challenge. And until we be willing to break bread and be honest and stop just trying to play these mind games that this is an innocent review of the charter that needs to be done because it's 30 years old, and I don't dismiss some of those things, but say that's your sole reason, and we know it's not the truth. That's my concern. That's my concern. I've been around long enough to know better than that. And I think they know better than that. But at the same time, it's about us holding ourselves accountable because it's more about us than it's about anybody else. Because I was talking to a good friend yesterday, and one of our comments were, we said the more he sent me an article from 1875, and my response to him was, the more things change, the more they remain the same. But nothing changes until we change. Okay, nobody else is going to change. We have to change the way we do business. We have to be more thoughtful. We have to be more concerned. We have to be more committed to doing what needs to be done so that we can have a better quality of life for all of us and all of us to be proud of. You have been listening to Speak Augusta. This is your host, Ben Hassan. You've just listened to In My Opinion. Please, we encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.